Hey everyone, my name is Charlie and today is the beginning of another reading vlog. And this time I am actually reading a book. Last week I said how certain books weren't giving me the almost little bit of adventure that I was seeking. Earlier this year I read the first chapter of Way of the Argosi by Sebastien de Castell. I previously read and enjoyed the Greatcoat series. The Spellslinger series I wasn't the biggest fan of, and then this is a spin-off from that. And for whatever reason I didn't much care for the first two chapters of this. But then last week, after saying that, I didn't really know what to pick up. I was feeling overwhelmed by the number of unread books on my shelves. As we know, I donated some of them to the charity shop last week, having realised that perhaps they no longer suited my interests. And so I picked this book up and I read 200 pages yesterday, and it's the light-hearted fantasy romp that I was looking for, which follows seemingly Farius Parthax from the Spellslinger series, but at the moment it's a case of being quite unsure of her identity. She hasn't revealed her name yet. She thinks that she's Farius, but she can't be sure due to she has been tattooed against her will with this sigil that has taken over her life really, and forces everybody to avoid her, or if they spend too much time with her they immediately begin to hate her. And so she is homeless. In the beginning of this book she ends up becoming a thief, and it's following her as I suppose she becomes the character that we go on to meet in the Spellslinger series. Reading that, hope to finish it either today or tomorrow. I'm not going to think too far ahead when it comes to my reading this week, just think about this book, which I just really like de Castell's writing. He knows how to write adventure and fantasy adventure incredibly well. I can see the links between this and the protagonist of the Spellslinger series, and I very much enjoy that and thinking about how these characters were connected in ways that we perhaps hadn't known about before. But yeah, that's me. We're reading this week, and like the constant stream of bad news that seems to be heading my way at the moment can't continue, can it? Rejection letters, friends ill health, family ill health, that's all just, it can't continue too much this week, can it? Fingers crossed. Anyway, I'll see you when I see you. Earlier today, I recorded all of my videos for the forthcoming week, and I was certain that I had forgotten something, and I had. This vlog. Yesterday, I finished reading Way of the Argosi by Sebastien de Castell, and this was the perfect palate cleanser to have me finish a book, read something rather quickly, and give me the sense like I had accomplished something because it's another book off my shelves that has now been read. I have enjoyed every Sebastien de Castell book that I've read. I think there might be some where I haven't liked them as much. The Spellslinger series for me is nowhere near as entertaining as the Greatcoat series, but I can see the author's improvement as a writer. This is an author who is incredibly good at suspense and cliffhangers and writing chapters in such a way that you want to move on and you want to see what's happening next, so they are very gripping page turners. Ferius Parfax is a character I think that a lot of people enjoy as a side character in the Spellslinger series. I don't know that I wanted to know what her life was like before the events of the Spellslinger series, but to see the world before was interesting, and to see what the world was like prior to the events of that series was interesting. One of the things that kept me reading this book was the fact that something happened to Ferius within the first few chapters that had been inflicted upon her by a mage, and I wanted to see whether she could rectify that situation. And so really, I read this book rather quickly in the grand scheme of things. Was it 200 pages on Sunday and then finished it on Tuesday? I am thrilled to have read it. I don't know if I'm going into the sequel straight away. I don't know what I'm reading next. Part of me thinks to go to my June TBR, part of me thinks to go and read something from my Alternative Women's Prize long list. I had hoped to actually get that finished before the winner announcement, and I'm pretty sure that happens tomorrow. I wanted to release my video ranking all of the titles at the same time, but I still have 3 books left, and I don't know whether I'm going back to the ones that I DNF'd earlier in the year. It's a project that I seem to have avoided for over a month now, and I wanted to get these last 3 read last month. Indeed, I wanted to get The Furrows by Namwali Sapal read way back when this project that I embarked upon first started. I think my reticence is to do with the fact that it's a novel about grief. Similarly, How We Disappeared has a lot of trauma within its pages, and these are things that I avoided reading last year due to certain events, and I'd thought that I had got over that, but I seem to be avoiding anything that could possibly have some sort of darkness within its pages. That isn't just with what went on last year. There's a ton of stuff going on at the moment as well that puts me off reading anything too grim, because I just don't want to be reading that sort of thing with everything else that's going on. That's why books like Way of the Argosi are the perfect kind of light relief. It's also one of the reasons why I wonder whether to also go to one of the Elizabeth Taylors, as in The Sleeping Beauty, which is the next one I have to read, because they're usually somewhat light-hearted. However, I know from the first 2 chapters that we are dealing with a widow in the beginning. I'm pretty sure that situation changes as the novel goes on and becomes another romantic entanglement. I did manage to get some writing done yesterday of the rewrite of a scene early in the second Ellis Valentine. So hopefully I can pick that up, because we are nearly halfway through the month and not many of the changes that I've wanted to happen have happened yet. That's me. I don't know what I'm reading yet, but I will figure it out. Oh goodness, today we are holding a moment of silence for the light in this corner. Well, that's the day off to a good start anyway. The light in this corner is not working. Therefore, the men's shoes are in a state of darkness. But maybe that will help to sell more if people can't see what they're buying. Yesterday, I decided not to attend the writers group. I've just ended up with so much going on that by the time I arrived home from walking Sal, it was 1:30. I had half an hour to get ready and get to town, and I weren't feeling at my best anyway. As I've been walking, I'd become overwhelmed by a little bit of dizziness, and I was wondering if I'd got a cold coming on from the way my throat was going. I don't know what was going on, what had happened, but I ended up sending them a message just say apologising for my lack of being there. And I stayed in a corner with a cup of tea and a book for the entire afternoon. That book was The Forever Sea by Joshua Phillip Johnson. I have now read 320 pages of this book. It is a fantasy novel in which we follow the character of Kindred, who is a keeper aboard a ship. She keeps the hearth fire burning with magic, song and bones. And different formulations of song and bones can cause the ship to either go faster, slow down, drop, go, that sort of thing. It's a very interesting world that the author has created. It's a very vivid and colourful world that the author has managed to create. I find myself impressed by their world building for the way in which they bring the reader into the story. We are rushing along really, so we don't have much time to acclimatise to everything that's going on, and then we reach a point in the story where the author chooses to educate us in a natural fashion about the way that this magic works and the way that this world works, and expand the world. And I like the way that the author did that, focusing in on the ship and then building the focus outwards until we reach the point that we are at the 320 page mark. Honestly, at points yesterday I did think that I could have finished this book in one day, and had I not had other obligations, walking the dog, making tea, having a bath, practicing Italian, then I might have got these things done. We're also editing a book right now, so these things were all stuff that I was considering as I was reading this book. But I'm hoping to get to the 400 page mark today. If I could get past that, that'd be amazing, but 400 pages is the goal, to then finish this book on Sunday. I didn't expect to pick up a 600 page book this week, but I talked about how I'm in the mood for escapism, and the best way for me to escape things at the moment is to go into fantastical worlds. And so we are heading into a fantastical world with The Forever Sea. Anyway, disregarding books for a moment, as I said, I did do some writing, so a scene that I've been wanting to write with Marmaduke, and you'll actually have seen me earlier this year struggling over whether I wrote the scene or not, finally appeared in a different form than I intended it to. And then tonight I should be watching Drag Race, and at midnight the first part of the series finale of Doctor Who goes online at midnight, and I have a friend currently trying to get me to stay awake and watch it, and part of me thinks I should do that, but another part of me recognises that I am definitely, I'm in work tomorrow, and I don't know how I'd cope on 6 hours sleep. We'll see. For now, I'm going to go and make a cup of coffee, and I will speak to you tomorrow to round everything off. It's Saturday, and despite reports that I would actually manage to get some reading done yesterday, that didn't happen, because when I arrived home, my sister was there. She'd sent me a message whilst I was at work to ask whether I wanted to go for a walk around the forest with her and Floss, and then her fiance sent her a message, and they ended up having Chinese food at our house, so the walk didn't happen. But then, because they have recently got engaged, they somehow decided that we were going to watch my parents' wedding video, which meant going around the house trying to find the old video player. Turned out that was in my brother's room. My television that had a video player in doesn't work, but then I haven't switched that on in about 14 years. Indeed, the last time I can remember switching it on was when I was particularly ill in 2010. And for about 4 days, I refused to admit that I was ill and just sat watching Dinner Ladies on a loop from series 1 until the end of series 2. That's 16 episodes, it's 8 hours. I was basically watching that every day. No wonder I felt delirious. Anyway, we didn't even get all the way through my parents' wedding video, so they're coming back for a roast dinner tomorrow so that we can watch the end of it. So I then wanted to get yesterday's video online, which meant having to edit that, did that, showered, and then decided that I was staying up for Doctor Who, because I just knew that based on the way things are, I was likely to end up getting spoiled immediately. And no word of a lie, from midnight people were posting online the spoilers about big bads and that sort of thing. I can understand why they do it, it's the world in which we live. So anyway, watch that. It was a silly thing to do really, because it left me so excitable that I well, excitable and also mildly fearful. And I ended up not being able to sleep until about 2 o'clock this morning, and then I have to get up at 7, so Lord, I am going to be wired on caffeine, or I'm going to take a dramatic nosedive. Because currently I feel awake, but then, you know, it's what I always say. I feel like the children of farmers are built mildly differently. We get exhaustion at stupid points of the day. Or, as I said to Charlie of Charlie Brooke Reads this morning, we're Charlies. We are exhausted all of the time. But I'm now looking forward to an evening of reading The Forever Sea, unless other things get in the way, you know, like they did yesterday. But currently, my plan is to go home, begin encoding this vlog, and then edit some today, some tomorrow, get it online, and in the meantime, read The Forever Sea, because it's one of those books that when I'm not reading it, I'm thinking about it and wanting to be picking it up, which doesn't happen often. And I'm just thrilled that I chose to read this. I didn't plan on reading a 600-page fantasy novel this week, but sometimes I think that you have to go where your mind wants you to go. And this week, my mind has wanted to escape into a fantastical world, and that is what I have done. And I read quite a lot of this book on Thursday, so I just have 250 pages to read tomorrow, and I know that's doable, and I'm looking forward to getting it finished because I really am enjoying this one. I think that, as I say, the world building, the way that Johnson has managed to craft this world and his characters is just impeccable, really. I look forward to seeing where the story is going to go. If you've read any of the books that I've mentioned this week and would like to discuss them, then please feel free to do so in the comments. Also, just remembered one small thing. This coming week celebrates 9 years of Our Doris, and because of that, I am intending to put a video out on the anniversary in which I answer questions and give answers to anything about Doris or my writing, or anything really. So if you have any questions for me, please feel free to ask that. Actually, please do ask those in the comments. I hope that you have enjoyed this video, because until next time, that is all.